Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, it's Vandy. So back into the Card 5 Vanguard deck profiles. Don't like, subscribe, and let's start it, shall we? This time we're covering Keter Sanctuary Bastion Set 7. The reason why it's Bastion and not any other deck is because Bastion was the only one that didn't have like a theme to it. I guess weekly or like the weekly uploads that I'm doing. So yeah, Bastion is here because he's the outlier, like the other three or the other two. So Bastion, honestly, it's good. My issue with it is the second I added in these cards from set 7, the whole deck never wins a game. I don't know what it is, but those cards fucked over Bastion, even though you would think they add more consistency. Honestly, I'm somewhat tempted to test that theory and remove those cards. The issue is there's nothing from set 7 I would actually run outside of those two cards, meaning that if I were to remove them, I can't build a set 7 deck. So yeah, they're in here so I can do this deck profile. That's pretty much it. But I am testing that theory out after this to see if it was those two cards that made the deck worse. So first up, we have our starter in Knight of Heavenly Bow's base. Grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base, all in Hermona Pine, 1 second draw a card. Standard starter, no spots, but it's just a free draw. You can really use any starter because none of the deck requires base as the starter, but might as well go the full ride line, am I right? And then we have our Overtrigger in Light Dragon Deity of Honors Armatinoa. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power. I love how its wings look like fucking lanterns and or shields to me. Overtrigger, my one to take a deck in your deck, reveals a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one of your tickets, plus 1 million for the turn. And if you revealed it during your drive check, activate its additional effect, which is until end of turn, you perform drive checks for the battles your rear guards attack. So essentially, in this deck, you could possibly get Sextuple Drive. I don't think that's like particularly good. I mean, yeah, Sextuple Drive is nice and all, but one, this deck is still very much capable of losing even if it does sack their over without the opponent sacking the over. And it like kind of makes, I mean, the chance of that happening is very low, but it still has that chance of losing regardless. And like even with it, how often are you going to perfectly see this on your grade 3 turn? Like if you guys are seeing it on your grade 3 turn perfectly, good for you, but I know I fucking don't see it. I mean, the most I could see this being useful is if you ride prime and then you call 2 primes because fuck it, you just don't want restand or your board's been nuked and then you just get, what would the number be? Like 9, I don't fucking know what the number for 9 is, but yeah, 9 drives, which would be funny. Either way, Armatinoa, it's just the over. Honestly, if it wasn't for Obari being a Cray Elemental, I would honestly run Obari as the overtrigger here. But like, because this is an all Keter deck, obviously I can't get Obari. So yeah, we get the argument of point here. He's here because he's a Keter over. If Obari was the Keter over, or if I wasn't trying to build an all Keter deck, it would be Obari in this situation. And then we have our normal triggers. 3 copies of the Draw Trigger, Protection Magic Pro B, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k base. Draw trigger, use guard token opponent's Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater, it gets plus 5k shield. Simply the best trigger in this deck because it's the one I see the most. No offense to the front trigger because the front trigger is the reason why I live a long time. But 3 copies of Pro B, even though she should be at 4 arguably, because she's the one I drive check the most. Whether that be for good or bad, I don't really know, but she's the one that kind of fixes my situations, and now I have a little bit more bias for her considering that one game that was on the channel where I somehow managed to lose via Divine Intervention, but essentially I didn't have a Bastion in hand. I saw a grade 3 and I was like, fuck you for me not finally having a Bastion because I had to discard one for the previous turn and I get a draw trigger my last drive check and it reveals a Bastion. So, you know, I got a little bit more bias towards Proby. Amazing draw, 3 of. I would put it to 4 of if I wasn't just wanting to keep the trigger lineup the same. Then we have 4 copies of Bard of Heavenly Song Alpac, grade 0 boost in K shield, 4k base. Front trigger tease guard circle becomes Vanguard to grade 3 grades plus 5k shield. Cool, 20k shield is really helpful for defensive, especially when this deck doesn't have any real guarding power outside of the cards that don't fucking prove useful because they never show up in the time I need them. But Alpac, as much as she disappoints me on the offense, yeah, because when I change this deck, even with those only 2 cards, somehow the deck's consistency in the sense of when I see my fronts change too, because I used to see them in my drive checks, now I don't. But on the bright side, Alpac shows up pretty much when I need her in the defensive. If I need a defensive trigger that will help me live the turn, keyword being live the turn. If I'm at 4 and I don't see a front, I know I'm not supposed to live this turn because Alpac shows up when it will save me. So yeah, 4 of Alpac, she's essentially my way of knowing if I'm at 4 damage, how am I going to die or not. If she's not in my damage check, I'm dead. If she is in my damage check, then I'm fine. So 4 of Alpac. Then we have 4 copies of our Critical Trigger, Blade Feather Dragon, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power. Critical Trigger, auto rate the amount of boosted, put it to soul, choose one music plus 2k for the turn. Just, you know, you run it because it's a crit. Honestly, that ability, like, it rarely comes in helpful for me. Like, there are decks where it does come in helpful, but even those decks where it does, I tend to not use them. It's really rare. Actually, no. I don't even use them in the decks they're actually useful in. The only time these have proven useful to me is like an actual game situation, like a 1 out of 10 situation where I have absolutely no soul and I need a soul for it. But honestly, using the crit to get the soul kind of fucking sucks because I have to swing with the unit that I'm not, like, that I want to have swing last or after I do Vanguard and Draft Check abilities to make sure that the crit goes off for the Vanguard skill. So all around, like, the crits, they're bad, is what I'm getting at here. Like, even in the decks that they're best in, I still don't use them. And even the situations where I need them, arguably I wouldn't use them if I wasn't trying to pull off a skill. So for Blade Feather, it's like, it's fine. It's just that for me, these are the most useless cards Bushy has ever printed. So for Blade Feather, like, I'm not even joking, the vanillas are better. Then we have our 4 heals and healer of Heavenly Staff, our Shrez. Grid 0 boosted in Keshu, 5k power. We all know why I'm not running the effect heals. If you don't know why I'm not running the effect heals, they're very situational. Like, because even the restanding one, they have to swing with the same unit twice, meaning that if you have to drop the heal trigger beforehand, fuck you then, because, you know, that extra 15k shield you put in there specifically for, or that extra, yeah, that 25k shield card you put in there specifically for that one moment, if you have to drop it beforehand, guess what? That's essentially 5k shield wasted because you're probably dropping a second card to back up for that 5k. Honestly, that's why I like the normal heals better. They're just like that standard 15, that always helps out in the early game. Fuck the effect heals, because you can just start taking shit when you get to grade 3. Just don't take damage. Even counterblast heavy decks only need 1 counterblast. If you don't believe me, fucking watch me play, because I can do it, and it's not that hard. Either way, for our Shaz, it's not that hard to install a counterblast, especially in this deck where you don't need counterblast for a while. Now we move on to our grade 1s, our very few grade 1s. By very few, I mean this is the only one that's in the main deck, and that's 4 of the PG Aegismire Dragon. That looks like a fucking zebra. Grade 1 boost, 0 shield, 6k base, contains Sentinel, 4 summons a second, auto spell guard, could choose when you beat to cap in a battle, and if your hand is true cards, you card from your hand, discard it. Okay, cool. Standard PG, no splash about it. Basically, that means if this is only one of the cards in your hand, when you place it on guard circle, you don't have to discard, and that's pretty great, because that means, you know, you can go as aggressive as you want in the offense and not die. That ability will never come in handy in this deck, because you're not going to have very little hand cards, because the ones you keep are all triggers, and that happens often, and then the ones you don't keep are all on the board because they're all grade 3s. So, like, having to discard in this deck isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. So 4 of the PG, it's fine. Also, I love how, like, a statement someone said aged so well. I mean, at least in my opinion, aged so well, and by aged so well, I mean, if you can't tell I'm being sarcastic, aged fucking horribly, because I find it funny how, like, at least when I play this deck, how wrong they are. So, 4 of Aegismire. Then we move on to our last grade 1, the grade 1 in the ride deck. None of those are the main deck outside the PG at 4. And that'd be Knight of Heavenly Sword 4. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Auto when it's rewarded upon by Knight of Heavenly Spear Rooks. Reveal 2 grade 3s from your hand. Reveal the top card of your deck, call it to rear guard if it's unit, and put it to drop if it doesn't. Okay, that rarely happens, but for some reason, the curse of seeing heals off his skill have transferred to seeing PGs. Actually, you know how the front is an indicator of when I'm gonna lose or not? Guess what Fort's skill is an indicator of? If I'm gonna win the game or not. You wanna know how I know? If it's a heal, I've lost. If it's a PG, I've won. If it's the one very specific grade 3 that it always hits, then I've also lost. So there's a 2 in 3 chance that I am going to lose a game, and it all can be told by Fort. You want to know how I know this? Because every time I use Fort's skill, it's one of those 3 cards in particular. I have literally done the math. Every time I won, it was because of the PG. If every time I've lost, it's either been the heal or the grade 3. So, like, doesn't matter. Anyways, act rear once per turn, counter boss 1, choose a grade 3 Vanguard, gets +5. So, you know, you're never going to use that because there's no way to call it out of soul, and there's no way to put it back to deck and call it because you would go to the ride deck. So, you know, that counter boss skill doesn't matter, but cool. If we still had it in the main deck, it'd be a free +5 kind of, but honestly not worth it. So, one of in the ride deck. Then we move on to our grade 2s, and our only grade 2 being the grade 2 in the ride deck, and that is Knight of Heavenly Spear Rooks. Grade 2 SF 5k shield, 10k base, auto was powered by Apex Ruler Bastion, the specific grade 3. Reveal 3 cards from your hand and draw a card. Cool, free draw. And then continues rear guard during your turn if you have 3 or more grade 3, and he gets boost and +5k power. If he counted himself as a grade 3 and gained boost, I'd be fine with it. Like, fuck the 5k, because honestly, becoming a grade 3 would be better, because now I have a grade 3 that has shield value, and he has boost still, and he just counts as a grade 3. So I prefer it if he did count as a grade 3 instead of that 5k, but he's still okay. Though, again, you're never going to be able to call him out of soul to drop and then call him back to rear because all shenanigans Bastion has to do. But one of them in the ride deck. He's at least useful in the sense that you get a free draw, but after that, he's kind of useless. Then on to our grade 3s. First up, we run 2 copies of Knight of Broadaxe Rafluke. Somehow the grade 3 I see the most of in this deck. Grade 3 turns out Persona, 13k base, active rear, put it to soul, choose one of your grade 3 rear guards, it gets +10 for the turn. Great, +10. Good, easy +10. It's nice. Pretty good. I like it. Gets me soul too, which sometimes becomes a problem. So just 2 of Rafluke. would you believe it or not, Rapfluke's the reason why I won a game. And not because I gave its power to Alden. Because I was 1 grade 3 short of pulling off shenanigans, or to be more exact, 1 grade 3 unit. I specify that for a reason. And Rapfluke came in and was actually really helpful because he helped me hit just enough numbers and attacks to win. So, 2 of Rapfluke. You know, he's always been there when I need him to be. And honestly, this is probably going to be the reason why you die, because Rapfluke is always there when I need him. Then we have 2 copies of the specific grade 3 that I was talking about with Fort. Like I said, if it's the heal, I've already lost. If it's the PG, I've lost. However, if it's Spare over here, I lose before I get to grade 4 via double critical. I'm not joking with you. Every time, it's always been double crit when my opponent gets to grade 3. If you want me to prove it to you, like, watch me fight, because honestly, it happened, and I find it stupid. Like, at least with Arshez, I'll get to grade 4. This just guarantees me I lose. Don't know why. Anyways, Heavenly Arrow of Sure hit Spar. Grade 3 200% right, 13k base. I love his art, and that's why I don't remove him, but still. Auto front or rear guard when this unit stands by your Vanguard's ability, Soul Boss 2, draw a card. Yeah! You know why that skill, you know how I know he's going to be the reason I lose too? Because I heavily rely on him because I don't want my Aldens to get nuked. So I rely on him to get me draws for my turn. So when I get to grade 3, I don't fucking die due to a counterattack. And also I can make plays. Guess what? I don't see grade 3s on my drive check. So if I get to go to grade 3 first before my opponent does, I still don't get the plus off it. This deck just doesn't want me to use Spyro's ability, apparently. And then continues back for rear guard circle. During your turn, all your other rear guards saying, "Come as and get +5." I like how he has 2 different abilities. The front row one's the one I try to pull off. It always fails because quite literally the deck won't let me sack grade 3s if he's in my front row. So that free draw, as much as I would like to have it, doesn't fucking go off. And then all the rear guards say, "Come as and get +5." I'll say that's good because even in the situation where I can't boost, which is very rare situations, at least Spare can go in the back row and give my other boys +5, so I can always go on the finishing move, which I had to do in my last game where Rapfluke actually won me it, and Spare helped because that 5k kind of made the difference. So 2 of Spare, or Sparar, whatever, I like his draw ability, that never goes off because the deck doesn't want me to, and I like the 5k just because it's good. 2 of. Then we have 3 copies of Grand Heavenly Sword Alden, the card I was honestly thinking about getting rid of because I don't know, Alden's been kind of like lackluster in his performance. He hasn't really been doing the good deed, and honestly, I could probably drop him without noticing. But yeah, honestly, the boy hasn't really been doing his job, but you know, I keep him around just because I feel like people would get mad if I got rid of Spar, even though I'm blatantly telling the truth. Anyway, I mean, not Spar, Alden. Anyways, his skills, Alden was placed on rear, Counter Boss 2, Soul Boss 1. Choose a card from your hand, call it the rear guard. If you call it a grade 3, you draw 2 cards, and then auto rear, when this unit attacks, if you have 3 or more grade 3s, this unit gets +5 for the turn. So, you know, it stacks, so if you restand him and attack with him again, he gets a total +10 for the turn, and that draw 2 is, I guess, nice. Again, I say, like, he hasn't been doing good, and what I mean by that is I'll draw him. Like, he's one of the units that hasn't changed the consistency. Like, I'll see him the same amount of times I've seen him before, and his skill will go off the same amount of times I've seen him before. It's just that his draws used to give me things that I actually need. Now he gives me things that, like, fuck me over. And what I mean by that is he gives me 2 triggers. And this isn't like Arc situation where those triggers are the reason I win. Alden's the situation where I would have won if I didn't use Alden. So you see where I'm coming here, where I actively should get rid of Alden if I want to win. You see, that's why I'm not getting rid of him, because I know to all of you that seems like the stupidest statement you've ever heard. But when you listen to this story and then you know it's true, it seems like I should logically be getting rid of Alden if I wanted to win. The only reason I keep him around is because I like his sword. That's literally the only reason he's still here, is because I like his sword. So, like, you know, 3 of Alden, like, his skill, it's good, but it doesn't fucking do anything if all you see is triggers, and not in the sense where Arc saves you, but in the sense where it just fucks you because you would have won without them. So, 3 of Alden, you know, he's doing his own thing. And we have 3 copies of Heavenly Eclipse, Dragon Embrace. Yeah, once I got those new set 7 card, suddenly I've seen Embrace less and less. Just saying, set 7 really fucked this deck over, even though I added 2 good cards. Grade 3 turns out Persona at 12k base. Auto when it's put on guard circle. Choose one of your vanguards that's grade 2 or greater and being attacked. Gets +10 for the battle. If you chose a grade 4, it gets +20. Cool, works with grade 3s, works with grade 2s, so if you need an early guard for works, you can, and if you're in grade 4, she's a 20k shield. All around, I like Embrace. I think she's great. She's a free shield that your opponent can't get rid of, unlike the shield I added, which fucking sucks because it costs less, because it actually has a cost to it, and while it gets more if you're on Bastion, it doesn't do anything if you're on Bastion Prime. Like, Again, I say, set 7, honestly, there are those decks where you can upgrade and it actually makes them better, and there are those decks that you upgrade and it makes them worse. This is one of those times. 3 of Embrace. It's just good. Honestly, if I, like, after this deck before, I honestly might revert back to my set 4 deck, because set 4 deck was actually fucking winning. So, Embrace is at 3 of. I don't care if I win. I just want Bastion to win, because Bastion was fun when it, like, actually went off, because now it doesn't go off. Like, I don't see grade 3s. That's my issue with it. If I saw grade 3s, I would be happier. But my grade 3 amount's the exact same, yet somehow stacking less grade 3s. So, 3 of Embrace. It's just there. And then we have 4 copies of one of the 2 set 7 cards that I believe is the reason why this deck keeps losing. Graceful Heavenly Flash Hermona. Grade 3 turns out Persona at 13k base. I like that she has a sword, though that doesn't justify me reasoning running her. Auto back row rear guard center. When your Vanguard Bastion is being attacked, Soul Blast 1, move this to guard circle and it gets plus 15k for the battle. Okay, I like Hermona. She's a 15 that works on both Prime and Bastion regular. Here's the reason why Hermona has been the worst card in my deck. 1, she has to be specifically in back row center. So not only does one of my rear guard circles have to be dedicated to her, which isn't necessarily a problem because the power stays the same. The issue is, now I have to dedicate that specific spot to her, and now when I use Fort to call the top card, if it's a PG or a heal trigger, I can't call it to back center because she's in my hand half the time, and I don't like calling over shit. So Hermona is that regard, but then also the fact that because she has to be on rear, any deck that can nuke shit will immediately go for Hermona, making her worse than this thing, which works while I'm at grade 2, and not to mention the fact that she only gets more shield when I'm on 3rd grade 3 Bastion. She's here because 1k more. And honestly, it's not worth it. But 4 of anyways, because I have faith that she'll work. But that is the reason why I put her in the end. 1k more. I'm not even joking with you. That's the reason she's here. And even then, it's not worth it. Then this fucker. Him. Okay, he's actually been doing his job. Just, I don't know if it's his fault or Hermona's fault at this point. I'm assuming it's Hermona's because he's actually been doing his job. So Heavenly Wings of Purity Honataria, grade 3 200 Persona at 13k base. Auto one's placed on rear guard. If you have Vanguard Bastion, it's card name. Thank God it works for both. Card boss won't choose up to 1 grade 3 card from your hand, call it to rear, and if you have 5 or more units, draw a card. Cool. I misplayed this before because I remembered it could be any 5 units, including himself, or herself, so you're allowed to draw a card, which is great. And then you can use rear guard during your turn. If you have 6 or more units, it gets boost. Cool. That was the situation I was in last night. I had 2 of these in the back row, back left, back right. I had an I had a Spare and I had a Rafluke in the front row. And the draw I had was the grade 3 order that gives boost, but I had absolutely no hand card, so I couldn't do anything with it. And I was on Bastion Prime. So what I had to do was resort to other bullshit and do this. I had to use Rafluke skill, give the one behind him plus 10k and move him upwards, and then I swapped Spare and listings columns, so this could at least get plus 5k. Honestly, I didn't think that plan would work, and it did. So, Honarda's actually been doing his job. The counter boss is great because I'm still getting that draw consistently, and he gets boost, and honestly, that's that's not the reason I won that game, obviously, but, it helps because I actually didn't draw that grade 3 order till very much later, and having that extra card with boost really saved me there. Now, this is why I wanted to get rid of Alden, because he does kind of the same thing. I get 1 less draw, but I pay less cost in total. So that's why I wanted to drop Alden, because honestly, I see him just as often, so if not more so, actually, because I do see all 4 of these every game. But, yeah. Honestly, if I were to drop Alden, I have every reason to, because Honara has actually been doing his job. I do genuinely think it's Hermona's fault, but I can't rule out Honardia for changing my ratios, because he is also from set 7, and sometimes the cards I least expect to change my ratios. So 4 of Honardia. Then we have our last grade 3, 2 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck of our boy, Apex Ruler Bastion. You see, the other thing is, too, I used to rarely see my Persona rides. Now with this deck, I draw all of them really quick, or I'll damage check one early, and then I'll draw the other one later on, which is very weird, but okay. Always right before I ride to Prime, too, so it's like the deck's telling me, you have a choice. You could Persona ride, or you could go Prime. Which one is smarter? Prime, but whatever. There was actually a time where if I didn't Persona ride, I would have lost, and I'm glad I chose that time to Persona ride. Either way, grade 3 turns Persona, 13k base, continues Vanguard. During turn, all your grade 3s get plus 2, which is great, because that basically means all of them are 15k swingers and boosters respectively, making them all 30k swings. And that's amazing, especially when you're on an Alden going first, because that means you can beat the shit out of your opponent with big numbers. Then auto van once per turn at the end of the battle, your drive check revealed a grade 3. By discarding one, choose one of your rear guards standing, gets plus 10 for the turn. Great, you can discard the card you drive checked, restand the boy, get plus 10. That's amazing. It's nice. Alden always hits for bigger numbers, and that's honestly why outside of the sword thing, that's why Alden's still here, because like with Bastion he gets like the biggest numbers. But again, it's not worth it when he's also the reason I'm possibly losing. Then again, that also might be Hermona's fault. Honestly, I might try the theory out. Just remove Hermona, put in another unit that isn't from set 7, because I don't want to fuck with that strategy anymore. Put in an older card that's Soul Blast and see if that fixes the problem. If it does, it was blatantly Hermona's fault. If it doesn't, then I might have to remove the Angel too, sadly. So, you know, Bastion's good. I like the restand. I like the plus 10. It's great. The 2K always helps, and honestly, that's kind of why I like him more than Prime, because that actually makes the difference in all when I can't restand. So 2 in the main deck, 1 in the right deck, just in case I need those Persona rights. Then we have our last unit in the deck, not the last card though, and that is 3 copies of Apex Surpassing Sword, Bastion Prime. If for some reason you think I don't see this often enough, one, I made it clear in another deck profile that I did that even 2 copies is enough for me to be able to make plays with and actually see decent enough for them, but also literally every game I draw this in my opening hand. Or if I don't draw it in my opening hand, I draw it when I get to grade 1. So essentially, I will always see this. Grade 4, triple drive, 13k base, continuous Vanguard. During return, all your farmer gets plus 2. I hate that ability because frankly, that was not necessary. I mean, granted, it makes all these 28k swings if they're boosted by grade 3s, but still, not that great. Because, you know, that 5k extra drop. And then auto van once per turn. At the end of the battle, your drop check revealed a grade 3 or greater. You may put a card with Bastion's card name from your hand or soul into the drop zone. Send all your grade 3 rear guards that get plus 10 for the turn. You know what happened when I played my set 4 version of Bastion? That was game on turn 4. That was immediately game. If my opponent survived, it was game in their favor, and that's fair. But if they didn't, then clearly it was game on turn 4. You know how it works here in this deck? Not game on turn 4, actually. Game on turn 5 if I get it off twice. Like I said, these 2 cards, I don't know whose fault it is. I'm assuming it's Hermona, but it could also just very well enough be his fault, her fault, whatever. The deck does not have the same power. You would think it would be better with the extra defensive and the actual ability to boost without needing the order. Nope. Somehow it made the deck worse. Not even joking with you. I'm genuinely serious here. So, like, I love the fact that he can board restand, because having fucking 2 Aldens swing at your face for 50 to 60 to possibly 80 something, because that did happen on occasions, to face is very dangerous. But then you remember, all you really have to do to survive this deck's onslaught is just be at 3 damage. PG Prime, and then just be at 3 damage. If they sack a crit, sure, but, like, if you have a second PG in hand, you're fine. So if you have 1 PG, honestly, and you're still at 3 damage, as long as they don't sack a crit, you're fine. So, yeah. 3 Prime, just good. Hits numbers, gets board restand, amazing. I hate the 2K part because it only restricted to front row, but hey, whatever. If it was 3K, if it was 5K, I'd be okay with it, but no, not since it's 2. Either way, still good, though. I like him. 3 of. He just has a good skip power. Then we have our last card in the deck finally, which is 3 copies of the order Pride to Protect, which honestly is not justifiable running after I run this thing, but I still like this one because I do see it quicker most games than I see it him, her, it, whatever. I see it quicker than this. So I'd rather use Pride to Protect in the early game. So anyways, grade 3 normal order, set order after set orders play, put it to door zone, play it by discarding a card, the easiest cost in this deck. And yet for some reason, every time I play this card, I always have perfect cards, and I never want to discard any of them. So, you know, basically its cost is discard the card you value the most. And then continuous order zone, all your grade 3s get boost. So, or all your grade 3 rear guards get boost. Great, you know, all of these hit numbers. I think the best targets are definitely this thing because you're calling it to back center and Spare, so you can get plus 10s, but you know, also Rafluke works perfectly fine, and on occasions Hermona. So all around, I like Pride to Protect. It's great. It's a nice set order. I love it. It's the reason why I won a lot of games in set 4. 3 of, because it hits numbers with the boosters. Honestly, yeah, if you can't boost in this deck when you do the restand, it's definitely not as deadly because they're easy to block them. And that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, this deck is like, it's fun playing, but again, I know that like set 4 is better, and now that I know it might be Hermona, I am tempted just to drop her. If you want to know why I'm not running Decordia, because I know some of you are probably screaming in the comments at this point, run Decordia. Fuck Decordia. If you want me to run Decordia, pick right now between Alden and Decordia, because this deck has a counterblast problem. Honardia actually does his job, and is the reason why I play games long enough to do something. Alden over here has been fucking me over since I got to set 7. So pick right now. It's Alden or Decordia. Like, honestly, Decordia is not that good. Well, it's fine, but, like, I don't need it. If I ran Decordia, I would still lose those games I lost anyways. It wouldn't have made the difference, even if I ran it over Alden. It wouldn't have changed anything. It wouldn't have made me win games. It just would have made it closer. But, like, even by closer, I mean, and you can't see I'm doing air quotes, by the way, but by closer, I mean would have fucked me in a different way. So, yeah, I don't run Decordia for that reason. If you want to run Decordia, go ahead. It's fine. I can see why, but, like, nah, not for me. It's either him or Alden, and even then, I think Alden would still be better. I'd rather fuck myself over than have Decordia fuck me over. So, without further ado, I'm going to end it here. If you guys enjoyed, don't play, comment, subscribe, join Discord, follow Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.